Range Rover is proud to partner Monocle on Design on Monocle Radio. Every Range Rover is created to elevate leaders' lives with cutting-edge design, connected, refined interiors, and electrified performance. These qualities drive every Range Rover to deliver unrivaled luxury. This vision is inspired by the same values that created this icon 55 years ago. To hear how Range Rover is elevating leaders' lives, tune in to a special season of On Design Extra, in which the Monocle team meet the innovators, trailblazers and design leaders who are inspiring the Range Rover journey. Listen out for those special programs soon on monocle.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Monocle on Design and Range Rover, elevating leaders' lives.
Sleep is something we rarely get enough of. Our to-do lists pile up, alarms sound all too early, and the hours we need seem impossible to find. Yet quality rest remains vital to living well and working productively. So how can thoughtful design transform the spaces where we recharge? Which brands are rethinking the bedroom to help us sleep better? And can the right furniture, lighting, and textiles genuinely change our relationship with rest? This is Monocle on Design.
There's a lot of just stuff out, and for us it's like we really want to be intentional with the things that we're designing, and ideally they're solving a problem and serving a strong purpose within someone's life.
For bed sheets, everyone historically has thought, well, it has to be high thread count, it has to be of Egyptian origin, which is just not true. It's all about the fibres.
This is Monocle on Design, a show where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and graphic design. I'm Nick Monisse. On today's program, how we can sleep better with good design. Moving from the bedroom to the living room with furniture maker Thuma, and exploring affordable design with homeware and clothing brand Rise and Fall. All that coming up on Monocle on Design.
Hey Nick,
Hello,
you've been gone
Grace.
for like 3 weeks. I felt like you became a figment of my imagination in that time. Are you
Yeah.
okay? How's it? Obviously, you've just got off a flight.
I know, I started to question whether I was even real. I was back in Perth seeing my family, but off prior to that, I had done a big reporting trip through southern New South Wales for Monocle and also visited Dubai Design Week.
I'm really jealous of this trip. You went driving around New South Wales for work.
For work, well,
I saw the pictures, okay?
sometimes it's a little bit hard to like try and talk about how challenging your job is when it is more or less going on holiday. But it was from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. reporting non-stop. Me and this photographer Nick Banner, who's worked with Monocle for a long time, just hitting the road, and it felt like this. It's kind of like what I imagine reporting would be like. And so often it's not like this. So often you're trying to speak to an architect or a famous designer and you're having to go through their PR and they're like all these gatekeepers. But we would just wake up, get in the car, drive to a first location and then kind of just ask people, who should we go speak to next? So it was a travel story. But, I think my favourite one was like we went to this oyster farm in southern New South Wales on the Shoalhaven River estuary, started chatting to them. They were like, you should go check out the diving school. So then drove off and went and saw the diving school. Off the back of that, they were like, there's this amazing pub that you should go have like lunch at. Went and visited them. And it was just kind of snowballing. And you kind of get this completely different way of building a story, or like a very organic way of building a story, kind of like the wines that we would drink at the end of every evening because we're also in amazing wine territory.
Well, so you look slightly tanned right now, which is upsetting because I feel so pale.
This is one of those ones as well where despite being Australian, day one, I got absolutely cooked.
No.
Yeah, I was not even a little bit pink. I was very, very pink. But it's kind of settled down. Slip, slop, slap, stayed in the shade, looked after myself. But an amazing place to be. Also caught up with some sensational Australian designers while I was there to bring it back to design. I think it's one of those things where there are realms of design or disciplines of design where I think Australia really excels. I think it is product and furniture. And I also think like backyards, like domestic outdoor spaces. This is a country of the quarter-acre block and people really, really like just putting together the most beautiful, whether it's an amazing deck with a bespoke built-in barbecue, I saw some of that, which is also just so fun, or just like a lush garden that's been planted to make the most of like New South Wales kind of subtropical environment. Not to mention my mum's own garden, which I also designed.
Oh,
which I
shout out to Carolyn.
Carolyn, it really it's come into her own, like huge, amazing. But I think that's it. I mean, you go back to Australia every summer. Are there design moments that stand out for you?
I actually think the retail design is unreal in Sydney, especially like the little like cool independent brands. It's girl heaven whenever I'm there. And like,
what, in terms of like the shop?
Yeah, like the
shop
actual
layouts?
shops, like St. Agni, Dish and Bondi, amazing. And they all have a boyfriend couch, which is what I call them, where you can go in with your boyfriend and you park them there. And then you can like shop and they wait patiently. I've got pictures of my boyfriend on like so many couches from our trip to Sydney.
Truly, I think these are essential because I love to shop, but my wife can outshop me. So I'll often go in and I'll be like, look at these chumps sitting on the couch. No stamina, absolutely nothing. And then after about 45 minutes, I find myself on the couch as well.
Yeah, scrolling your phone.
Yeah. Did you catch the cricket yesterday, mate? You watch any of that? What do you make of it? Anyway, that is a key design feature there. You're going to jump from the couch to the bed. Is that even...
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk bedrooms.
Let's lie down because today's show, inadvertently, there's kind of this thread of the bedroom running through it. Maybe the place to start, what sort of bed do you sleep on?
I sleep on a comically low, Japanese-inspired dark wood bed, and then I have a comically massive Japanese-inspired sort of paper pendant lamp above it from IKEA, and it cost £5. It's a reissue from the 1960s. It's so good. And then everything else in my bedroom is very like silver accents, very like neutral tones.
So we got Japan. Where are the silver accents coming from? What
like
sort of
on
language?
my wardrobe.
Swedish?
No,
What's
it's sort
the
of
vibe?
British. It's B&Q. Have you heard? B&Q.
As in the hardware. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, briefly I was like, wow, this is brand new. Okay, no, it's B&Q. What, so like nails and screws and like leftover?
Yeah, like doorknobs. But
Really?
they're just
Okay.
brushed aluminium. They look unreal. So good. And then I have just like an altar at the end of my bed where I burn incense.
Photo of me, no doubt, on the
No,
internet.
a framed postcard of Malevich, a composition. But I think it is a very monastic space and it's very zen in there. And I love it. If I could, I'd spend half my time.
Is there something to be said about, I guess, the calming presence created by Japanese interiors that you've tried to draw from for your bedroom space?
Yeah, for sure. And I have a load of cupboards. Like my whole right wall is just cupboards, and it's so good because I'm a really messy person, but I can just shove it all in there. And then suddenly, bish, bash, bosh, minimalism.
Adding to that beautiful, simple language.
Yeah. Tell me about your bedroom. What does it look like?
Colourful, chaotic, probably exactly what you would expect. Very neat. Everything has a place. Like it's often not talked about enough. Books as just like, you know, you've got your doorknobs on your shelf in your bedroom. I've got books. I've got things of actual substance. Like they're just the most beautiful home furnishings. You can
Actually, new development in my bedroom. I've started stacking magazines along the wall.
I do the exact same thing, and then I reach a point where I'm like, okay, it's gone from like being art object to clutter. Because I think that can sometimes be the challenge of this job. I feel like we're people that love print, so everything I walk past, I tend to pick up, and then all of a sudden I've got some amazing magazines in a stack, but but also a free community newspaper.
Yeah.
that I've picked up
No, but
from
also like
Austrian town.
80% of it is unread. Let's be real. That's another part.
We also have different stances on this. You need to finish a book, whereas I'm quite happy to read 30%.
Cover to cover, baby, even if it's a magazine.
No, I've got
reading all of it.
I've got the info I need. No, you were going to say something.
But I was going to say my last thing I find really important in terms of design and how it helps me unwind, sleep, is I've become obsessed with white sheets and just wearing white in general, like wearing white cashmere.
How does that go with like oily skin getting into bed?
No, I don't have oily skin. I've got very dry skin. No, but I wear all white as well. And this is inspired by Kundalini yoga. And when you wear white, it's supposed to raise your vibration, your Kundalini Shakti, which is the divine feminine energy. And it's sort of like an act of aura cleansing as well at the same time. So
Which I imagine helps you sleep.
Yeah, honestly, it's so peaceful. And it's like, when you wear white, you carry yourself differently as well. You know, you've got to be a bit more careful. I'm not going to be eating toast in bed if my sheets are white.
No, absolutely not.
It's insane.
Which is maybe why I should get white sheets. I don't know. So colour is obviously key to the design of a good bedroom space for you. Are there any other like kind of features that stand out? Bed position, materiality. You talked about timber there.
Timber, cotton, natural fibres, metal.
Lighting, what are we talking?
Lighting, we've got 2 little bedside table lamps. I've got the flower pot in the chrome version from Anne Tradition, which is a little bit annoying because it does gather dust, so you need to clean it a lot. And then my boyfriend has an angle poise next to his bed.
Okay, so you don't mind the mismatched lamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a choice, to be honest. It's just what we have. But I feel like, actually, you know what? If it's a bit too matchy and perfect, it looks a bit too much like a hotel room. And I spend enough time in hotel rooms.
This is why you need those stacks of magazines. I was going to go with this. I also and this is one of those things that I don't know if it's necessarily true, because my family's a little bit tinfoil hat. They're kind of hippies. But my sister told me that you need a timber bed frame because you want to be earthing. So you want a natural material that will connect you back to the planet, back to Mother Earth, back to the mothership. So I've always gone for timber bed frames, just off this, like, an aside my sister said years ago. But so I'm very similar in that. The other one is obviously, like, I want the light to be as, like, yellow as possible. I want as little blue light end of the spectrum coming through as possible. So if you kind of walk past my house at night, it looks like
a brothel?
Yeah, it does look a little bit like a brothel. I wasn't going to say it, but you've said it. Yeah.
Which, by the way, remember that time we were in Paris and Nick actually thought this bar had, like, cool red lights and he was like, let's go check it out. And I was like, that's definitely a brothel. It
was a brothel. We didn't go in and check, but it was in the evening. I'm drawn to red lights. And that, I appreciate, doesn't sound great, but I think it does speak volumes about the importance of circadian rhythms for people that are working in such institutions, and also for my own home. But maybe let's try and steer clear of that now. I want to get kind of back to a little bit of some of the themes we've had running through this. Japanese joinery, I guess, in the bedroom, timber bed frames. They're both things that are ticked off by Thuma, which is this amazing US, I guess they were a bedroom brand to start, but now they're really a home furnishings company, a lifestyle company. They've just gone from making beds and launched into making sofas amongst a host of other kind of lifestyle elements for the home. What I really like about their work is it's such a simple construction. I was in their showroom in New York, and they basically did, you know, those exploded axonometric diagrams where you can see, like, how all the parts of something slot in. They've essentially exploded one of their beds onto the wall. It's one of the coolest, like, displays I've seen of, like, how a piece of furniture goes together. But the whole idea showing that it was like 7 or 8 pieces of timber that can essentially then be slotted together, again, inspired by Japanese joinery, made of amazing rubber wood, upcycled rubber wood. So typically rubber tree plantations, they like waste a heap of timber, which I didn't realize, in the process of making rubber.
Wait, sorry, what's rubber wood?
You know, rubber, like rubber.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Which is not wood.
I'm going to keep saying rubber. No, it comes from the rubberwood tree. So they extract the rubber to make products like the soles of shoes, and then the timber is discarded. And Thuma really switched on, saw an opportunity there. They work with partners in Asia to make their timber bed frames. But I was lucky enough to catch up with Alec Banks, who is the head of brand at Thuma. And we had a little bit of a chat about the evolution of the brand, moving from the bed and beyond the bedroom into, I guess, a whole lifestyle segment. I mean, they've got amazing little collaborative products that they also make. So we had a little bit of a chat about the evolution of the brand and the direction that they're heading in.
Started in the bedroom. You know, we saw that there was an opportunity to create a bed that was high quality, that was easy to assemble. We really wanted to go out and perfect that. We wanted to start with that, and we really wanted to just work on it until we got the perfect bed possible. And we did that. There was a lot of inspiration that we pulled from, one of them being the construction of Japanese joinery. You know, I think if you look back at that technique and how long it's been around, I don't know how many years, but a very long time.
Yeah.
And they're still using it today. How can we incorporate that? It's such like an amazing feature, and something that's
it's kind of joints slotting into each other essentially.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle piece, to be honest. It's very satisfying here in our store. You know, we have it on display where you can basically test it out and like understand how it works a little bit more, which I think is like super important. And it's such a amazing quality to the classic bed, and it is spread throughout a few of our products, not all of them, but you know, wherever we think it makes sense to do, we do it. And makes it super sturdy, noise free, it's not squeaking, it's not going anywhere. That's kind of how we started.
Are there certain pillars that Thuma kind of sticks to that really define everything that you do? Because as you said, it's not just about the joinery, but there's obviously a lot of thought that goes into the brand.
Yeah, our main pillars are, you know, elevated design, just having designs that solve a problem. They're at a very high quality. You know, I think our design team, they don't cut corners and they think about every little detail. And I think that really is shown in our products. So elevated design for sure. Quality craftsmanship, really, you know, working closely with our partners and making sure that our products, the way in which we design them, are being constructed in the way that we want them to be. And, you know, with that, like thinking about the customer first, very intentional with the way in which we design it and how it shows up to our customers and making sure that they fully understand, why we did what we did for them.
I'm also curious, you talked there about quality. So much of that is also materiality. I mean, I know a little bit about your timber selection, but I found that quite fascinating. Elaborate a little bit on, I guess, the materiality of your furniture.
So majority of our products are made out of rubber wood. Rubber wood is somewhat native to Vietnam area. Vietnam's where we produce a majority of our products. Rubberwood trees produce latex. And typically what you see is when these trees are producing latex, they're usually just discarded afterwards. They're burned. They're kind of just trash, if you will. And what we found is that rubber wood is super durable, really good quality. So we take those trees after their first life cycle with producing latex. We take those trees, which are being grown like in the backyard of our factories, which is great. Yeah, we produce our products out of rubber wood trees.
I feel like we've kind of nicely established the brand, the pillars, a bit on the materiality. It's got its origins in latex and the bedroom, which sounds a little bit kinky. We're going to evolve as a brand from there, which is what Thuma has done.
Yeah.
How do you maintain the DNA and move into this next phase, which is all about the living room and living space?
Yeah, I think I got this from my past job, and it's really just about consistency and really understanding who you are at the heart of everything. Really establishing that and making sure that's spread throughout the company and making sure everyone's on the same page with that. I think once you have that understanding and that strong ethos of who you are, I think you can go out and accomplish, whatever we set our minds to, for sure. And, being in the bedroom up until about 2 months ago, we just released our living room collection consisting of 2 sectionals, a run of coffee tables, some new rugs, definitely just the start of it and definitely more to come as far as the living room goes. But, it really starts with the product. And again, I think we have such a strong foundation and really understand who we are from a design company and what needs to be in our products that, it has all the same characteristics.
Why the living room? Why move there from the bedroom?
Naturally, it just felt like the next best move, the next room to do it. The living room is so important to everyone for one reason or another. The place where you want to go to kick your feet up and hang out and do absolutely nothing. I think it's a strong room where it's like you just want to bring your friends together and you want to bring your families together and you just want to have a good time. And it's just such a important room throughout the house that I think you can do a lot with it. And I think it just naturally felt like the right next move for us.
I mean, tell us a little bit about the discussions that go on there in terms of building the collection. How do you create the right sofa that ticks the criteria for what you're looking for as a brand?
For us, what we try to do is really put ourselves in the customer's shoes. I think we try to think about ourselves as the customer. What do we want as...
So these are all designed for Alex's own house.
Yeah.
Is that where we're going?
No, but I think overall from a design perspective, we really try to design into things that solve a problem. The furniture space there's a lot of just stuff out there. And for us, it's like we really want to be intentional with the things that we're designing, and ideally they're solving a problem and serving a strong purpose within someone's life. For the 2 sectionals that we did, we have the essential and we have the signature. The essential is definitely more for lounging like we're doing right now.
I like that, it really does start with the person. This is not just about making something pretty for the sake of making something pretty. It's about what people need in their homes. What does that customer look like? Who have you actually got in mind?
A homebody, you know what I mean? Someone who just really loves the environment of their home, someone who really wants to kick their shoes off. We're all about, what we say internally, like lounge and leisure, creating this oasis within your home and, getting out of the chaos and the noise and like coming into your own home and, just being able to relax and be yourself.
I like to also throw this one out there. I mean, when you're telling your friends about your job, is there a moment where you're like, oh, you're never going to believe this, or you're never going to believe this about the product or what we've done? Is there a moment the work that you're doing maybe, blows people's minds?
With Thuma, what makes us super special, I like how we create a product that isn't like a one use case type of thing. For instance, I'm looking at this bookshelf over here, and those are all individual units. And based on someone's lifestyle, based on someone's, space, based on, if this person moves, they can take this bookshelf with them and they can reconfigure it to however they want. It doesn't have to be just what we're looking at right now. I think that kind of just goes back to, who we are as a brand and looking out for the customer and trying to almost be a step ahead of them in a way where we're designing for, something that you might need right now. But, if you move in 2 years, like this bookshelf is definitely going to last way longer than 2 years, but you're also going to be able to reconfigure this, based on, again, if something changes, within your environment.
I like that. I think it's quite remarkable in terms of like we evolve and change and develop as people. At least I hope we do.
Yeah.
But so much of our furniture, I guess, kind of remains static. But it sounds like this idea to evolve and adapt is kind of built in. I know the sofa that we're sitting on can be expanded. I know that I'm looking at a chest of drawers behind you that can grow and be reconfigured.
Yep.
Was that part of the intentionality of this, that furniture should be able to develop with us?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of taps into the sustainability thing too. I think it's like a lot of people are like, I'm moving. I have to, sell this piece and it can't come with me because of whatever reason. For us, it's not the case. I think the way in which we design our products, where you don't need tools to set anything up, it can break down super easily and there's not a lot of pieces to it. And it's like, you can just pack it up and bring it with you. I think that's what makes us super unique. It kind of all comes full circle based on everything that, the design pillars and what we stand for and, being environmentally friendly.
My thanks to Alec Banks there. Grace, I want to ask you, Thuma's modular design concept, do you like the idea that you can change furniture to suit your space or your mood?
Yeah, I like the idea. I don't know if I practice that ever, to be honest, but it's interesting what you were saying about joinery, because sometimes when you hear modular, in my head I think it's going to have sort of strange joinery, but if it's done correctly, then I'm all for it.
I think maybe the other thing with modular is you think it's going to look maybe a little bit temporary. Like when you see these beds slotted together and the rest of their collection, I guess, fitted together, and they don't purely do Japanese joinery, that's worth flagging as well. But I guess if we're talking about that specifically, when you see it all kind of slotted together, it's so crisp, so sturdy that it doesn't look like something that can easily come apart. We've got a bed theme here, but also a Japanese theme running through this. I slept on a futon for years, kind of by choice. I had an amazing studio apartment, and I would just roll out the futon every night, which sounds a little bit odd.
Did you?
Yeah, I rolled out
Really?
the futon every night. Yeah. And it became this kind of beautiful ritual. And futon, incredibly comfortable, but it also not only meant that I guess the furniture would change to suit the space, but also the space itself could kind of adapt throughout the day, which I think was very, very cool.
That's stunning. I think it takes a lot of self-discipline. If I'm being honest, I struggle to make my bed in the morning.
Oh, I'm like military boot camp.
Yeah.
Bed gets made.
I think it's a male trait, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes my boyfriend makes the bed while I'm still in it.
I like that passive aggression.
Yeah.
I really
on like a Sunday when it's 11 a.m.
My favourite, if I want to get going, my wife nips to the bathroom, I'll quickly make the bed so that when she comes back, the message has been sent.
My boyfriend does that
time
too.
to start the day. Time to start the day.
Oh my God.
We're going to move on to Rise and Fall. Are there any Japanese connections here? Can we keep this going?
No, I don't think so. It's quite interesting because I've sort of known about Rise and Fall for a while. I've been lucky enough to receive a few sets as well and tested it out myself. And it is really good quality. It is just like a focus on natural fibers. And I spoke to Jed Coleman and Will Colton, who founded the brand. And it's so interesting what they were saying about how much you pay for a product is basically marketing.
And they're sets of sheets and...
Yeah, sheets, duvets, pillows, I want to say. They also do like clothes, really nice, just fine cashmere.
You've tried and tested these products?
I've tried and tested many products.
And they stand up to the scrutiny?
Oh yeah, they do.
So
They
what?
really do.
I guess I'm curious, like what makes them distinct? Why did you want to get them into the studio?
I just wanted to hear what they thought about the sort of marketing machine behind design. I mean, be honest, Nick, how often do you think you're paying for the name of a brand instead of the actual quality?
I mean, constantly. I think it's also that classic thing where you know, and actually I'll jump off kind of into fashion a little bit here, but I've done, believe it or not, some fashion reporting, and the number of times that you go into a factory that's making for a luxury brand, I mean, this is all happening all across Scotland specifically, cashmere brands, cashmere factories working for luxury French and Italian brands, and then you find out these factories also have their own sub-label where they're selling for, a quarter of the price, and you realise that, yeah, you really are just paying for the label, and I understand that, you're paying for design, but there's probably also a worthy discussion around accessibility and making sure that, a broader population has access to products that can lift your spirit and, make your space feel amazing. I certainly think there's something in that. And I guess this is what's driven Rise and Fall's work.
Yeah, sort of capturing that mid-market, direct-to-consumer price range while keeping it luxury. So it was interesting to talk to them and hear from them.
We started actually with what we call Rise and Fall 1.0, and it was a sheet business, but there were sheets sort of engineered for sleep because I was a terrible sleeper, and we looked into the market and sheets weren't marketed on the basis of like which ones are going to make you sleep better, and breathability, kind of heat regulation is such an important part of sleep. And so we created sheets that were designed for sleep and started building that business, which was going quite well. We'd won some awards for like best bedding in the country, and then we sort of got excited about seeing other different types of retail models and wanted to do something much bigger.
There's not much design to it. What makes a good duvet set?
I mean, that's been sort of our ethos across all of the products that we've developed is just keeping it super simple. The best raw materials, working with the best makers. For bed sheets, everyone historically has thought, well, it has to be high thread count, it has to be of Egyptian origin, which is just not true. It's all about the fibres, actually, and we use extra long staple fibres. So they're longer, which means you have fewer ties, so there's fewer rough points. When you tie the fibres together, it creates a weakness, but it's also rough. So the longer the fibres, the fewer the ties. You have a stronger, smoother fabric that lasts longer. So yeah, very simple, and that sort of stretches across everything we do. We try and keep things simple. Let's just, as I say, find the best inputs, partner with the best makers, and deliver products that aren't going to go out of fashion season to season, because it's tools for life. That's what we're trying to develop.
Another point that I really like about you guys is that you don't overcharge and you're really radically honest about it. How much would you say other brands maybe charge based on a name and like marketing?
Well, this is the interesting thing, is like what is luxury, I think. What do you think luxury is?
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like if I'm looking at something as a consumer, say I want a new, set of sheets, and I'm online, and then you sort of realize that there's a mean, and I'm assuming that's where the good product is that isn't overcharged. But then if something is too cheap, I'm almost suspicious of it. There is a lot of desirability involved, and it's weird because when you buy sheets, it's a private thing. It's not necessarily like public facing. So I feel like maybe in a way I'd rather invest in clothes that I wear to work and I'm actually seen in day to day. But the reality is I'm spending a lot of time in bed, and that's where I should really be investing in high quality materials. Do you come up against like consumers like me quite often where they're a bit like, wow, it's almost too good to be true?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because we don't have a physical store. So we're completely online. We only sell through our own website. And when we started on this journey, our prices were much lower than they are today, and that was one of the challenges that we had to deal with. It's too good to be true. And not until we got the product in the customer's hands did they start to believe, oh, these guys are actually telling the truth, because you're so trained on this stuff. It's like that's where the saying comes from. It's too good to be true, because you get what you pay for. Just going back to brands overpaying, I feel like that's almost the holy grail for brand, right? They are doing everything they can to create the ability to charge more and more and more for a product that costs the same as it did before. Now, there's only a few brands really across time that have flipped that switch. Costco is one of them. They focus all their time on creating the most value for the customer, rather than creating the most margin for the shareholders, and think, well, if we create more value, we have a more valuable product, we'll get more customers, and in turn, over time, we'll have a valuable business. And that's the way we're trying to look at things. How can we create the most valuable possible so that when someone buys from us or interacts with us, they have an experience that is, so significantly better than the equivalent for that price point, that they'll then go and talk about it to their friends and say, hey, have you heard of this brand? You should try them. That's what we're trying to get to. That's like the North Star for us, get that organic referral going.
I think word of mouth is gold.
Totally.
It's really the only thing I trust, to be honest. Yeah. With TV shows, with movies, with books, with like design. It's quite funny.
I think any great business that comes up and grows is, does so on word of mouth. And that's because they have a great product. And you've got to have a great product. And it was interesting what you were sort of alluding to before. There is a difference between bedding, which is seen only by you and, your partner or whatever, but and clothing where you wear it out. But still, even in clothing that you wear out, I guess doing quiet luxury before quiet luxury was this big trend, because we look a lot actually to Dieter Rams for sort of inspiration about design ethos and sort of less is better, pull back on the design. Let's get rid of the bling and let's just really focus on the materials. So yeah, unfortunately then everyone started doing quiet luxury and it became a sort of a thing, and then people were getting bored of it. But I think that's how a lot of people want to dress, and that's the target customer we want. It's not flashy. It's, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's quality, and you touch it, you're like, that's real quality, but we're not blingy.
That was Will Colton and Jed Coleman of Rise and Fall. Nick, tell me about your pajamas situation. Actually, no, you can't.
Well, no, I guess I do pop on the Muji boxer shorts, which is what I did last week around the house in Perth, because obviously, you still need some decency around family. I do own a matching set of pajamas. I couldn't even tell you what the brand are. They were gifted to me, super, super nice. And the idea of a matching pajama set really appeals to me, but the practicality of it just doesn't happen. I kind of don't like the idea of going to bed in clothes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think I want to feel a little bit of freedom, and you're already like trapped in underneath a duvet that you kind of, I don't need to be wearing trousers and a shirt. That's just how I think. But maybe there's a vision I have of myself of lounging around the house in a pajama set, reading the paper on a Sunday morning. That's where it kind of speaks to me. I mean, beyond Rise and Fall, do you have a pajama of choice?
I've actually asked for a pair of pajamas for Christmas from this Roman shop called Charlton. And they're really famous, and it's like kind of the iconic pajama shop in Rome. And Harry Styles.
What makes it special other than Harry Styles shopping there?
To be honest, I'm not really sure. It's just kind of cute to like
source
your pajamas from one shop.
What pulled you in?
Is it just like really classic, like cotton, clean, like a little bit of piping, so cute. It's very like hotel core.
And again, I think both of this, and maybe this is where we wrap the show up. So much of, I think, our choices are made about the sort of person that we want to be. The fact that I'm hanging on to pajamas and not using them says, I have this vision of me being a person that reads the newspaper on a Sunday morning. You said you spend enough time in hotels, but maybe there is also something about the relaxation of being in a space where you don't have to be responsible for making your bed and keeping things tidy. So maybe that's what, if we're talking beds, if we're talking Thuma, if we're talking Rise and Fall, if we're talking design products, it's about choosing things that speak to who we want to be.
Also, I want to be upgrading my life in like micro incremental ways. Also, if you think about it, you spend so much time in bed or like around your bed or like whatever, sleeping. So like, why not elevate it, Because at the moment I just go to bed in like a ratty t-shirt, to be honest. But now I'm hoping that I could really change my whole personality.
And I think this can happen. We chuck in a Thuma bed, we add in some new Rise and Fall sheets, and we're away to the races. And a new and improved Grace Charlton, which I think we would all appreciate. Not meant to sound passive aggressive. I mean, wrapping up the year, who do we want to be in 2026? All of that to come. But that's all for today's show. For more design stories, pick up a copy of Monocle magazine. Today's episode was produced and edited by Hassan Anderson and Elliot Greenfield. I'm Nick Monisse.
I'm Grace Charlton. Thanks for listening.